Hi, hi. This is Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Miller, and I am the developer of the Brigade Personnel Management tool. I'm going to show you a quick demo of version 3.2 after a few slides talking about the background of the tool. So this is the agenda I'm going to follow. So what is BPMT? It's essentially an ASP.NET website. It's similar capability as SharePoint. It's not SharePoint though. It is an IIS web server front end with a SQL Server back end. It provides shared role-based access to the common database. So basically everyone within a brigade could have their own role and view data that's relevant to that role. The tool supports regular Army, reserves, National Guard, units that have all of those components or multiple services as well. So that's a recent addition with version 3.2. It supports Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard tracking as well, along with various types of civilians, GGG, SGP, etc. Once it's deployed on a server, it does use PKI authentication, so everyone can log in with their CAT card to get to their account. Again, it's role-based, so they're only able to see information relevant to the roles that they've been approved for. Really, the true advantage is everyone's sharing the same resource, the same authoritative data source. So the S1 is controlling all of the personnel information. Your training officers, training NCOs are controlling the training information and PT information. They have the input, and you, based on your role, get to see a piece of that information. You don't need any additional passwords because you're using your CAC to log in. I mean, think about how many times you had to go to a different staff section, fill out a different form the last time you processed. It's simply because every single staff section is maintaining their own database, their own spreadsheets to keep track of people. But if they can all rely on the S1's personnel roster, which is the authoritative roster, it saves everybody a lot of time and eliminates the discrepancies that result just from people changing in and out, and some people having better trackers than others. The BPMT automates a ton of stuff. So not only does it create nice reports, nicely formatted reports that can eliminate the need for PowerPoint presentations, things like that, it also automates form entry, data entry into forms, memorandums to automate many common tasks. So it turns a lot of tasks that take 10, 20, 30 minutes into just a couple of seconds to a few minutes. It is low cost. It's a DoD open source software application which you can download from softwareforge.mil. Really the cost is running it on servers, so you might need to buy new servers if you are not provisioned with a good data center. But if you can use your network enterprise center, you might have to fund additional servers at that location or just use virtual servers. But really that's the cost of doing business, is having the server space, which can be coordinated with other supporting signal units, and just make sure you have a good database administrator to back up your data. There is no cost to the actual software itself. So let's talk about the capabilities, and this is really the key piece, because a lot of angst goes into the cost of running a program like this, but not much is factored into how much time is saved through the use of a tool like this. So this really automates practically everything that the S1 does. Simple alpha roster management, and it's filterable, so you can do quick queries, and you'll see that in the demonstration. Daily per stat tracking, strength management, and you can drill down to specific MOSs and specific units to see what their strengths look like. Awards management and tracking, evaluations, leaves, personal actions, promotions. You can see all that there, plus APFT and weight control management. And with version 3.2, this training module has been added, which gives you the ability to track your mandatory training completion and gives you nice roll-up reports by unit, and you can also see individual compliance as well. It does have an enterprise con. It's currently getting reviewed for renewal at NetCom. It does have an approved privacy impact assessment as well. And the National Ground Intelligence Center has been using it for a couple of years, and the Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio has just stood it up. If you want to evaluate it, you can download it from softwareforge.mil, stand it up on a single computer to play around with it, and when you're ready to deploy it, you need 2 servers, one for the IIS web server and one for the SQL Server backend. Should be running at least 2008 R2 Enterprise Edition so that you can encrypt the database in order to protect the PII. Alright, let's jump over to the demo. Alright, so this is basically what the front end looks like. It's a little different color scheme here simply because this is more customized based on the recent Brooke Army Medical Center deployment. So this has fake data in it. I'll put that up front. I've imported their TDAs for the Brooke Army Medical Center so you can see what the strength information looks like, but the rest of the personnel are fake. So on the landing page, a user coming on would be able to see that they are in fact logged in and see the roles that are available to them. You can get registered for multiple roles, but you're only doing actions based on a single role at a time. So if I come in as an individual, then I'm going to have less options, less reporting, and less forms available to me. But pretty much everyone can come in and report themselves present for duty. This is a quick way, especially if you're in an organization like the Brooke Army Medical Center or NGIC, where you might not have formation for everybody. This allows them to go to their desk and quickly report that they're present for duty. So an individual is going to have a small amount of forms they can use and basic reports so they can see their own personal information within the system. They don't necessarily have the ability to edit much except for some very specific information like their contact information. They can add additional contacts, identify their spouse, for instance, or their children if they would like, through the contact entry form. They can put in addresses, which would be useful for mail merge operations. They can see their rating chain. So this really, the fact that the individual user has this level of visibility, they can see the status of their actions without having to walk down to the company admin clerk or the S1 and ask and have that person dig around for it. It's right at their fingertips. Similarly, there's a My Actions, which basically highlights any actions that are in the process of getting completed, and it will flag any that are specific to the user. So for instance, if I hover over this flag, it'll tell me that it's actually required since I'm the recommender for this award. And I can see that, hey, I'm late on this award. When I hover over that, it tells me when I was supposed to have it submitted. Now there's some test data in here, so obviously with the 2-year-old award, I'm pretty late. Personnel action, same thing. I could see that I've started one here. It's awaiting D4187 completion. If I hover over that status, I can see when that status was set and by whom. But that really helps facilitate getting things processed and me seeing where an action is without having to bother the staff sections. Before we get into really good examples, I'm going to jump to the admin role. So the really nice thing, and this saves a lot of money as well, because a lot of companies will have something that's very customized and requires a developer on staff in order to maintain it. All you need really is the person to maintain your database and web server. Most NECs already have that staff on hand, so they're really just maintaining database backups and file backups. This system is highly configurable right through the web interface. So if I jump over to the admin here, and your admin can be your brigade or command, S1, G1, someone in there that gets familiar with the tool. But essentially all you have to do to get it configured for your unit is to set up your units. And here's the unit management. I can go in here, I can add a unit, provide this basic information. then you can see I've got all the units for the Book Army Medical Center in here, and the visibility is controlled based on the level you're at. So if I'm in a battalion, say I'm in the Troop Command Battalion, I'm going to see everybody within my battalion if I've got that battalion level role. Whereas if I'm in a brigade level role, I'm going to have everybody with the matching brigade name, Book Army Medical Center. And then if I'm at the command level, of course, I see everyone within the command. And so that's really just the key here, is making sure those match. And once I have those created, I can actually import positions, and I can import either a TDA or an IMTO directly from FMS Web. This wizard will walk you through the steps. You just import the spreadsheet, you step through it, you select which sheet you're going to import from, and it allows you to go through and import all of those positions. Similarly, and you don't have to have that information in there, but similarly I can import personnel. So again, I can browse, gives me a nice GUI interface so I can get what I need. I've already got a file actually uploaded, so I'm going to jump to that next step. And here I can pick from the worksheets that are in there. So I've got multiple worksheets in the uploaded spreadsheet, but I'm going to use the new data one to show an example of what happens when you do an update. So this is importing data that you might get from eMILPO for the soldiers in your unit. So since it's fresh data, I'm going to clear this current data. This is basically a staging table. It allows me to import the data and normalize it, get it prepared for import into the rest of the BPMT. So I'm going to import that. Notice I designated a component here. So it's designating as regular Army, but if there's any civilians in there, it'll automatically detect those and associate those with the appropriate civilian component. Alright, so here's the new entries that came in. Now the first step here is going to check and see if there's anybody new. In this case, there are no new people, so you're going to see none at the top. At the same time, it's going to show you below any people that exist in the database that don't exist in the import. Give that a second to load. And so this really allows you to keep everything in sync with eMILPO, even though there's no direct connection. And you can also import data from civilian personnel online. The key is you just have to have the right names for your column headers. Alright, so with this import, notice it identified a change in some of the personal data. So this individual is now reported as divorced, so I just have to leave that box checked, hit update personal data, and that soldier's record will be updated within the BPMT. Jump to military data. We see two majors got promoted to lieutenant colonel. So I'm just going to update that. And we'll check personnel units. So if there's assignment changes as well, office changes, you can import your office information, platoon section information. In this case, the arrival date changed. So I'm going to go ahead and update all of those as well. And this quickly synchronizes my data with the import. I also have the ability to import position information and automatically slot them with vacant positions, evaluation information. So as long as you pull it, say, from eMILPO, I can keep my OERs and NCOERs in sync with eMILPO's tracking of when an evaluation was completed and accepted by HRC. I can also import good conduct medal dates and use that for some reports. So I'll jump down real quick to component options. So this has been recently updated with version 3.2, so you can see the additional components that are available. I'm going to go ahead and enable civilian GG, and that's all I have to do. And essentially this allows me to edit the description, change the order that's going to show up in the drop downs, and determine if it's even going to be used. So by just checking that box, now civilian GG is an option for assigning a component to a civilian. So I could also include contractors or interns as well. I'm going to jump to Personnel Action Administration because this is one of the more powerful areas. And unfortunately, I just noticed there is a change in how the Army Publishing Directorate is publishing its regulations, but I don't think it's going to impact the forms at this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump down to the retirement, just so you can see what a template looks like. And all of these options are personnel actions that can be tracked right now in the BPMT. But it's highly customizable again. So I'm going to edit this retirement request. So this is what's going to appear. This text will appear in your 4187 other box. If there's any references, you just indicate them here. If you got additional forms required for that, essentially the BPMT is going to autofill your 4187 for you, but this is just going to provide links to any other forms. It's not going to fill them for you, but at least you'll have quick access to them. And then you can identify how it should be routed if there's any memorandum requirements. This is also going to be the addressing for the 4187. Now there's a default template for the 4187, but if you want a custom one for that specific type of action, you can fill that in here, and it allows you to put in variables which will pull from based on the soldier that is requesting that action. It'll pull that soldier's information in. So notice the memorandum template. I just print a subject line and use these variables, rank and soldier name, last, first, middle, caps, and that will automatically be replaced by the soldier's actual name and rank. And then I've got a large amount of text in here. Notice it's very forgiving, even though I've got different capitals, lowercase a and capital B, C, D, E. That will be corrected automatically by the script when it processes this memorandum and generates it for you. And then I can even determine, hey, I want the service member or one of the commanders to be the signature block for this memo. So it's very, very configurable, and I can even do an endorsement memo as well through that sort of template. So once that is done, let's jump back down there real quick. Just by typing in the name of the regulation in the forms, it does create links right to the Army Publishing Directorate site. If you notice in the lower left-hand corner, the link that pops up, that will take you straight to those forms. The regulations, like I said, those just got updated by Army Publishing Directorate, so I'm going to have to see if I can't find a way to link back to those again. But one of the nice areas of configuration right there. You can also see the various ranks, adjust the automatic time and service, time and grade for the promotion calculations, change your award options. So right now I've got the standard Army awards in here, but if you wanted to, and I also have civilian awards in here as well. But if you wanted to add Air Force awards or something like that, those could simply be added through here. Evaluation options is in here as well, so when the regulation gets updated and some of these codes change, you can edit those and create a list of offices and group them by directorate, division, and branch as we've done here. And the key is you just need to have a unique office code to associate to that directorate or division or branch. And you can also configure all the training options, including links to where that online training is located. And that will enable an individual who sees themselves as delinquent based on the frequency that's required. They'll have a quick link right there in the BPMT to take them to that training. And the workflow management as well. So for instance, the statuses that I can set for an individual award or an evaluation are all controlled through here. And so I can set those statuses here, and if I set it to that particular status, for instance forwarded to INSCOM, which in this case I'd prefer to say forwarded to Regional Health Command in this case. I can update that here. Who's it visible to? It's going to be brigade in this case, brigade or higher, so anybody above that level. And then what is the event I'm capturing here? So I've got several events I can select here. If it's one of these events, the date will be updated when that status is set automatically. I don't have to type in a separate date. It's going to go based on when I set that status. And then I can also notify specific roles. So if I notify that role, then say for instance the company commander, whoever is the company command role for that soldier that's getting the award selected will get notified that that status was set. So I'm going to go ahead and update that. And so now I can see the updated status, and we'll see that as an option later on when we try to submit an award and update its status. And I can also manage files here. You'll see the ability to upload files here. So what I'm going to do is jump now to personnel, so you can see some of the simple things you can do that really save a lot of time. So I'm going to jump to the unit alpha roster. This is, in fact, I'm going to switch down to brigade personnel to streamline some of the filters here. So when I jump to the alpha roster, again, as brigade personnel, I'm only going to see my brigade. So in this case, the Brooke Army Medical Center. But I can filter down to a specific battalion or a specific company if I wanted to narrow it down even further. I could drill down to platoons and sections if they're in there, and I could also view the various directorates, divisions, and branches. If I just want to look at the military, or look at very specifically just the regular Army component, I can do that filter as well. And notice I can also then filter down and say I just want to see the lieutenant colonels. I can update these filters as well and see all the lieutenant colonels, regular Army lieutenant colonels in headquarters Brooke Army Medical Center. And then I can export this to a CSV, which has additional columns to help with mail merge and things like that. So quick filters, quick way to identify personnel by rank, MOS, gender or marital status, component, and unit assignment. If I jump over to the award and loss status report, this is going to give me a quick view of my 30, 60, 90, and 120 day and further out losses. Now this really demonstrates a lot of the automation that the BPMT provides. So one, I'm going to shrink this down, hide my menu on the left here. There's a ton of people in here. But I want full screen, so I just hid that menu on the left. And now I can see my 30, 60, 90 day losses. I'm going to shrink this down just to the headquarters company. And so I get a quick filter, and you can see there's not nearly as many. So as a company commander for the headquarters, hey, I can quickly see just the personnel that apply to my organization. You can see I already have one in here, but just to demonstrate, I'm going to click on another individual in here who's a 30-day loss. Now it's showing a period end date in 2015 and a start date, and that's just due to some of this dummy data having a bad arrival and departure date. So I'm actually cancel that one for a second and see if there's one that makes a little more sense here. Okay, so that one looks a little bit better. So I can adjust the dates here. I can pick who's going to be the nominator. In this case, I'll just find myself real quick, and then say I'll do an RCOM. So just pick from that list, and all the other information was pre-populated. Of course, I could tweak it if I need to. I'm going to insert that, and now you can see on my tracker, I can see what award this individual is going to be recommended for, by whom, what the presentation date is, and it's flagging as late because based on the award timelines, it should have been submitted, a couple months out, 60 days out from the presentation date. You can also see the status there, draft with recommender, and when it was updated. So with that basic information now, this allows me to do some form filling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just jump into there. And I want to fill out a DA 638 for this individual. Alright, so I'm going to go to autofill DA 638. This is form management. And what this is going to do is spit out an XML file that I can then import into a 638 directly off of Army Publishing Directorate. So let's save that in a place I can find it. So I'm going to just do that in Documents, put it here in Test Output. Okay. So now I'm just going to jump to a 638. And from here I can just do Edit, Form Options, Import Data, grab that data, and open it. And there you go. As the recommender, my information is pulled in. At least I'm not assigned a position, so that wasn't pulled in, but I'm assigned to Headquarters Army Medical Center for this demo. All the information for the soldiers pulled in. The only thing that the user has to fill in then is the previous awards. But the addressing is done for the user. They just have to fill out the achievement blocks and citation, and even the routing on the back is done. So if you've got the company commander, and since this is an RCOM, it can be approved by the brigade commander, which is down here. So information is pre-populated for you. Addresses are correct, so you don't have to waste all that time kicking it back and forth between the recommender and through the various stat sections because of typographical errors or errors in how they fill out the form or routing, things like that. It just makes it a lot simpler, saves a lot of time. So I can then just save that. Alright, so I've saved my populated form. Let's assume I've actually filled it out, digitally signed it. I can then just come right back in here and upload that form right into the system. What does that do for me? You're wondering. Well, now the next person in the chain of command, say the admin that needs to review it, make sure you filled everything out, you can just access it directly through the BPMT, right with the record that indicates how it's being tracked. So there's my form uploaded, who uploaded it, and there's actually a version control here. So if I upload another one, I could always go back to the previous version if someone uploaded a version I didn't like. If I had a PT card in here that I needed to send up as well, and that was completed by my training officer, I can just associate it rather than having to re-upload it, so saving some space on the server as well. And now that I've done that, I'm just going to update the award status, and I'm going to say it's at company for review. And notice, as brigade personnel, I have the ability to go all the way to forwarded to Regional Health Command, which is that status we updated at the beginning. So I'm going to set at company for review. I can put additional notes like, please check my citation, or whatever I need to put. Hit update. And I'll hit finish. And now you can see I've got a status with my notes in there that it was just updated. And I can even look at the version history for this particular award, and it'll even highlight the changes from version to version. And then notice this icon turns green now, indicating that a file has been uploaded, so I know I can go there to actually see files for that individual. So that's visible down to the recommender and their my actions, and to everybody who has visibility of the soldier, with the exception of the soldier, him or herself. So I'm going to jump back here, and now as the S1, I'll primarily be using the award management form, so I could process that all the way to completion, because that's just going to give me a few more data fields I can track. So here's those awards. I can jump in here. I'm going to drill down into this again. You can see some of the additional data points that an S1 might have. And I could even say, okay, it's approved in pending presentation. Didn't have to go to higher in this case, so it's approved. I can put in the date that it was finalized. We're just going to say today's date. Let's see, give that a second. And I gotta just indicate the approved award is also an RCOM. Okay, by indicating the approved award, indicating the final disposition of approved, notice I get this generate orders number. So it gives me a little tooltip there. So I'm going to hit generate orders, and this automates the orders log as well. So based on the date finalized, that's going to be the orders date, and since it's the first one, I'm getting 001. And I'm going to go ahead and hit update. Alright, it shows that it's approved now. I've got the status updated as well, and if I jump down to the orders log, you'll also see that I now have an entry for Sergeant Goodwin's award right there in my orders log. I didn't have to go and do any separate work. So that's an example of fill in PDF, and some more automation here. You saw how it helped assign the orders number, but it does more than that. Now when I want to export this to Excel, say at the end of the year, to close out my orders log, I need to not only track the orders that were assigned, but also all those dates where orders were not assigned, and this automates that as well. So I'm going to open this export, and you can see what that looks like. Alright, so it's going to automatically put in the default statements right out of the Army Reg that the orders were not issued, and then on those days where orders were, you get those details in there. Alright, so that's a good summary of the awards section. I'm going to really quickly, I wanted to jump into the personal action status report just to show you the additional features you get based on the personal action administration configuration we showed at the beginning. So I've got a retirement in here. I'm going to jump into the form completion here. I'm not actually going to complete a form. I'm going to show you a memorandum real quick as well. So you have PDFs, Excel documents, and an example Word document as well. And again, you can see I can filter down to a specific unit to look at their personal actions. Got similar trackers here. And since I indicated in that configuration for that personnel action regulation or references, that's listed here with the link. This is not going to be valid anymore, but the form it is, and that will still work. So I can click on DA form 2339 and get that additional form. And again, this is straight off of Army Publishing Directorate. There you go. So I'll jump back to my report here, and then I can also generate the XML just like we did with the award form, get the DA 4187 and import it. In this case, since I'm an officer, I'm going to generate a memorandum, and then if I want to do an endorsement memo, I can even pick it. Am I going to use a company commander, battalion, or brigade commander signature block? Alright, so I'll hit open. You can see that the subject line will get replaced with my rank and name. Get these occasional errors, but you just go right through them. Since I'm assigned to the Brooke Army Medical Center, the addressing is already done for me. Since I had multiple through address it, it's properly formats it by AR25-50 all the way up there. You can see my information got filled in at those variables, and then all of those details, all those paragraphs got transferred into a memorandum format. If you recall, I had lowercase a and capital B, C, D, E. That was all corrected here, and proper spacing provided. And then my signature block at the bottom. I'm using all zeros for my social right now. And then since that additional form was identified as well as being required, it shows up as an enclosure. So really, everything's automated, and the only thing I'd have to do at this point is verify that things like this, which couldn't be pulled from the database, are updated in the memorandum before I print and sign it. And again, I can upload that document as well. And I'd, in this case, be identifying it's the request memorandum, just so I can track it. So similar functionality exists for PT tracking. If I want to track PT scores by individual, by name, or do roll-up reports for company, battalion, brigade level, all those capabilities exist here under the physical sections. As an individual, I'd be able to see my personal history as well. Under training, this is the new module. I'm going to jump to admin since that has, actually let's jump to company training. I think I've got that. Yeah, so company training, you can see that the company training officer would have this role. And they could update the training records for individuals here. Say for instance I just wanted to assign AT level 1 training. Pick the date of the training. In this case, I'll say it was conducted on July 28th, and then I can just pick who actually completed the training on that date, and I can quickly update it. And then if I jump to the by name report, I can see who completed training on what date, and it'll automatically change colors based on completion status and how close it is to expiring. And then I even have a nice training roll-up as well, so you can see it'll give me the percentages of completion. So I'm up to 10% now for AT level 1 based on that recent update. Alright, so I hope that gives you a good idea of the capabilities of the BPMT. You certainly can hopefully see the advantages of using a tool like this that automates a lot of common tasks and really simplifies them down to a few clicks. Thank you for your time, and feel free to send me any questions. I can be reached on this enterprise email at christopher.j.miller22.mil@mail.mil. Have a good one.